Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mcubed Show about all things fantasy sci-fi. As always, I'm your host, Schmook. Now, this week we're going to be doing something kind of new to the show. Since there's not too much for news, I thought I'd add a little bit something fresh in there. So we're not going to have a news segment this week, but we are going to have a review at the end of the episode about FX's new show that's streaming on Hulu called Y the Last Man. And they premiered 3 episodes on Monday, and this episode's going to focus on the first 2 episodes, because I haven't gotten around to seeing the 3rd episode of Y the Last Man. But since they're going to release episodes once a week on Mondays, I think for the first 2 reviews for this show, I'm going to do 2 episodes a piece. But then after that, it'll just be, of course, 1 episode weekly, right? But before I get into that, I wanted to do a new thing for this segment, for this show, a brand new segment where I would like to call just my pitch meeting, is what I'm going to call it. So for this pitch meeting, I'm going to do this every once in a while whenever I think of a good idea for it. But I think that with the recent success of Disney Plus, of course, being a brand new service, it's already huge. It's bigger than almost anything but Netflix right now. I think they have to get some more content, specifically Star Wars content, because of course we only have Mandalorian and Bad Batch, and of course the final season of Clone Wars as specific Disney Plus exclusives for Star Wars. Because Marvel's already killing it with Disney Plus. We got WandaVision, we got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we got Loki, and now we have What If. So I'm saying that, well, of course, we're going to get Star Wars Visions. We're officially in that 1-week countdown, so we're going to get some new Star Wars content on Disney Plus. So with my next episode, look forward to me reviewing the first episode of Star Wars Visions. But for this pitch, after the success of What If for Marvel on Disney Plus, great show. I like it quite a bit. I don't love that animation style, so for my pitch, I would like a What If Star Wars show. All right. Now, there's a lot of different instances in the Star Wars universe that could have just shaped off into multiple branching realities that could be interesting to focus upon. Of course, I'd want a little bit different animation. I'd honestly want Gendy Tartakovsky, I believe is his name, the guy who did the original Clone Wars animated show, as well as this new show Primal, which is an excellent show, which is on HBO Max. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen that. But I would like him to do the animation for this What If. Because I think it would fit well with what I would like to see with this universe. So anyway, I'm going to pitch a few episode ideas for y'all that I think could be interesting. For starters, the first episode I would like to pitch for this What If scenario for the Star Wars show would be what if when, of course, after Vader and Obi-Wan fight on Mustafar and Anakin is left burnt and messed up, what if Luke went with Bail Organa, and then Leia was to be watched over by Obi-Wan on Tatooine, staying with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. I think that would have a huge difference in what we have seen in the Star Wars universe. For starters, who knows how big a relationship Leia would have had with Obi-Wan or old Ben Kenobi on Tatooine. It probably would have been a solid relationship like Luke, of course, but who knows if she would have had the same aspirations as Luke did, always looking out to that sunset, trying to have more, or would she even want to be a pilot? Because with Luke, he grew up with a lot of guys who would just go on and join the Imperial Navy and stuff like that. But then, of course, the rebellion started to spark up, and then they all wanted to join the rebellion because the Empire is no good, right? But with Leia, I just don't know if she would have had the same path as Luke to become a Jedi. I mean, I think she would ultimately become a Jedi. But again, I think with another what if scenario, there's a definite clear-cut solution to her becoming a Jedi. As I don't know if she grew up on Tatooine, she would have been. She might have just been a moisture farmer for a while. Because I mean, Luke may have sent a message to Obi-Wan as well. If Luke was the one on Alderaan, maybe of course he would have been working closely with Bail Organa, who would have been his father, right? Who would have probably sent Luke on a mission to get the plans from Rogue One to how to blow up the Death Star, right? And he probably would have still sent the same message like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, which could have been interesting if it was Luke instead of Leia, right? But who knows? Of course, would have seen Luke as a more regal, a prince, right? A prince of Alderaan, who would have probably been good with a blaster, but he probably would have been just like Leia. He would have been more of a diplomat, as opposed to Leia, who would possibly, in this case, be eventually a Jedi. Because, of course, there was always that rawness to Luke on Tatooine. Where of course he was just he was just this moisture farmer, right? But then he's looking out into that sunset wanting more, and he finds more. by going on this quest to save Princess Leia from Darth Vader. But yeah, so to me, that's going to be my first what if segment for Star Wars. I want to pitch at least one of these a week until I run out of ideas, of course. But I feel like there's always gonna be something to talk about. I have a lot more up here, but of course I don't want this episode to run too long because I still have to review Why the Last Man. But I could go about talking about certain scenarios for days. And before I go on to reviewing Why the Last Man, I don't know how they would necessarily pitch this idea as a whole, because I mean, with Marvel's What If, they're getting into this whole multiverse like thing, right? Where Star Wars doesn't have like a multiverse. But I mean, I just think it'd be a fun little thing just to be like, well, what if, what if this happened in the Star Wars universe? How would that ultimately affect things, But yeah, so that's that. I hope you all enjoyed this new segment on the show. And let me know if you have any ideas you'd like me to talk about and possibly dive deeper into. Like, if you have any good ideas, I'll be like, oh, I'll bring that up in a what if scenario, and I'll just go deeper into it and how I think it would greatly affect the Star Wars universe. All right, so yeah, let's just go on to Why the Last Man's review. All right, so Why the Last Man? So this is a brand new show that I said earlier. It's on FX, but they're streaming it on Hulu, which is awesome. I'm happy I'm able to watch this weekly instead of just like having to wait possibly until the end of the season and it would go on streaming somewhere, right? But this is a very interesting show. It's based on a comic book, which I have not read, so all this is brand new to me. But after what I've seen, I'm like, I kind of want to read the comics because it's kind of an interesting concept. So we start off with we're introduced to our main character in this like post-apocalyptic like New York City, right? Or wherever he's from. I believe he's from New York. So we see him, he's in like, he has a gas mask on, he's wearing like a cool poncho, he has a little monkey sidekick, who I really like. I really like that dynamic of having a monkey and a man like just roaming like a wasteland together. But before they go deep into the post-apocalyptic stuff, they go back a day from what we see in the opening shot to meeting a lot of our main characters as like how they were before everything happened, right? So we meet a lot of people. We see Agent 355, I believe. She is this African American woman who she's like in a secret covert op. She's a covert op agent for the president, specifically for the president. Like, she goes on missions, whatnot. We see her, like, literally, when we meet her, she just blows up this house full of guys. I don't know what that assignment necessarily does for her, but it's cool. She's a cool character so far. Then we get introduced to the senator, who happens to be the mom of our hero, who's Y, the last man. And then we meet his sister as well. Well, his mom is played by Diane Lane, who I love. I've always loved her. I specifically love her as Martha Kent in the Zack Snyder Justice League trilogy, right? But yeah, I really like seeing her. I always like seeing her have some work. We get introduced to a lot of different characters. Overall, I don't love a lot of the characters. I do love our main character, of course, and his sister, Hero. Because we're introduced to Hero when or Yorn, I believe is his name, he is asking her for money when she's at her like support group because she wants to marry his girlfriend Beth, but like he can't even. He asks her for a little bit of change just so he can go buy cheese to make her dinner. So it's like, well, buddy, if it'd be nice to marry a woman, but you have no money. I don't know what you're gonna do. But anyway, so we meet his girlfriend as well, and they're having dinner, right? And then he asks her to marry him. And she's like, listen, I want to go to Australia and I want to meet new people. And she's kind of like saying no. But he's like, I would go with you to Australia. And she's like, you're gonna hold me behind. And he's like, all right, get out of here. But yeah, that's basically it for the first episode. Of course, we get to the very end where everything's starting to unfold. Actually, so we get more of a deeper dive into Hero's character because we find out that she's a paramedic for New York, right? And she's sleeping with some guy who's married in like an ambulance, and she looks at his phone. He's getting texts from his wife. He's like, make sure to pick up diapers on your way home. She gets pissed off at him and be like, listen, are you gonna tell her, or am I just some side piece? Blah blah blah. And then she's just starting to throw stuff at him. He pins her against a wall, and she shoves him back, and then she throws like a fire extinguisher, I believe, at him, and it severely cuts his throat, and he starts bleeding out, and he literally dies. So she literally kills this guy. And it was interesting. It was interesting to see that and she's just like, she's shocked, and she's just laying down in this ambulance until morning, and then like a police officer starts knocking on on the ambulance door, and then we find out right then and there that like he's knocking, and she's scared. She doesn't want to open the door. Then this police officer just collapses, and she opens the door and finds him just bleeding out of his mouth and whatnot. And that's what's happening with everyone in this show that's a man. Like, even the president of the United States is dying by blood just spewing out of his nose and mouth. And it's interesting because we're seeing this all unfold, how all these men on the planet just die. And that's the premise of the show. Like, that's like every man in the world is dying, which is crazy, and from some illness of some sort, because we see throughout the episode like a lot of animals are affected by this disease. We see like Agent is walking on a road and she finds like a cow and like a deer just like dead, and then we see like different rats just dead on the road with some disease. And then we see at the end of the episode all these guys just start dying, and it's actually kind of it's crazy. Like, we see like an airplane from the sky just crashing down into New York, like, and it's wild. Like, it's like like, I couldn't imagine this ever happened in reality. Like what would happen if every single man, but apparently just one guy, just dies out, and it's just a whole post-apocalyptic world from that point on. Like, what are you doing? The world ends. But that's the first episode. I liked it quite a bit. So episode 2 of Why the Last Man is a pretty solid episode, because now we're actually seeing what the world is like post-apocalypse, right? Or post-end of the world. And it builds off the first episode of like, oh, what are all these women gonna do? So the president of the United States is dead. So we see Diane Lane's character, who is, of course, Y's mom, become president of the United States. And she's working in the Pentagon because the White House gets taken over. But again, there's not a whole lot in this episode. Like, a lot of it has to do with just Y trying to find his monkey in a subway tunnel that's flooded. And he loses him, unfortunately. Until the end, he gets found, which is good. We get a little bit more into Hiro's backstory or background in this time, where she has some friends. She meets the wife of the man that she slept with and killed, which is interesting. So there's an interesting dynamic there. So again, even though there's not a whole lot with this episode, we get some interesting scenes. Like, we see Y, he's naked in Y is naked in a dry cleaners, which is interesting. And then he runs into like 3 Asian women who own the place. Only one of them speaks pretty good English, and one of them draws a gun on Y, and he's just like, I just need some clothes. And they're all kind of shocked to see him, because of course he's the last man. And of course we get some more, we see throughout the episode, and we saw in the very first shot of the series, how Y is like writing messages everywhere to find Beth, his girlfriend, who he proposed to. Because the last time he saw her, they fought, which can't be easy on him, not knowing where she is or what she's doing. And her probably assuming that he's dead. But he wants to let her know that he's okay, which is good. I really like him as a character. But we get to the end of the episode, and Agent actually breaks into Y's apartment and finds out that he's alive, and he's obviously a guy. And she asks who he is and blah, blah, blah. So she then takes him to his mother, who's the president. And then so we have an awesome scene at the end where there's a hug between him and his mom. Like, she's so shocked to see him because he's the last man. And I don't know, like, going forward, it's gonna add some questions, right? Like, she's president of the country, and now she knows there is a guy alive, and now there's probably gonna spark up a lot of debate and possibly war, which I think could be interesting for the show as a whole. Because of course I don't know anything about the story and background of this IP, but that's what I would assume, figuring out what it would be like if there was only one guy left on the planet. So that's it for the episode. We're gonna do a final scoring for my first review of Why the Last Man. So overall, since this is the intro to it all, it's going to be a bigger scale review grade, going into everything in particular, like the visuals, the directing, the writing, the score, and the acting and characters, right? So overall, I love all the characters. I like Y a lot. I think he's a good actor. I like the actor who plays him, and he's a really good character. I don't know the actor's name, but I really like him. I like Hiro, his sister. I think so far she's a big standout acting wise and as a character. And then of course Diane Lane's amazing. And then there's a lot of other good smaller side characters that like obviously are gonna have a bigger part to play, I feel, as the show moves forward. So that's it for acting. Visuals, I think it's interesting how they're able to put together like a post-apocalyptic like New York and whatnot. Kind of reminds me of like The Walking Dead, but instead of like zombies, it's just obviously just a bunch of dead decaying corpses all over the place, animal and human. And then for the score, I really like the score. There's certain scenes where just the score is so somber and dark, and I'm just like, whoa. Like, it adds to the whole element of the show, like of what would happen. Like, if it would be dark, it'd be dark as shit, you know, if like there was no more men left on the planet. as far as we know. Because, I mean, if he survives, who knows? There could be more. And then so the story I love. Like, I like the idea of what would happen if just all the men in the world just drop dead from some disease, and how would the women of the world react to that? And what would happen if there was one man left, and how will they react to knowing there's one man left? Because of course, like, there being one man left, like, he has to be able to reproduce the world if they want to keep the human race alive. So it's gonna get interesting story-wise. Writing, I think the writing's pretty excellent. Like, the dialogue's great, and the actors do great work with the script they're given. And of course, with the directing, like, the director is able to have good shots. I mean, I haven't seen anything like super cinematic or like aesthetic of a shot, you know, but like the acting, like the director is getting the actors to perform quite well. So for the series so far, it's gonna get the big review, because this is the big review score out of 50. I'd say after this week, it's just gonna be like a out of 10 type of a score. So overall, I like the show quite a bit. So I'm gonna give Y: The Last Man an Mcubed grading score of 46 out of 50, which is an A. All right, that is an A. So I highly recommend this show. I'm a big fan of it so far. Again, there's 3 episodes to watch on Hulu, so go for it if you have Hulu. And if you haven't, I don't know why you watch this, because I kind of spoiled quite a bit. But yeah, that'll be it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed Y: The Last Man as much as I did. If you did, tell me what you liked down below. If you didn't, tell me what you didn't like down below. And of course, in your comments, just give me some suggestions, any ideas you would want to have for like the what if scenarios, or other pitch ideas I should be doing, or other content you would like to see on the show. All right, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your comments down below, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.